Yeah.
All right, welcome to podcast, Retro Bar Podcast. I think it's 45, but I really didn't look this morning, so we're going to call it 45. And this podcast that we're doing this morning, it sort of was conjured up a couple months ago, really, and postponed a couple times, which is no big deal. But we are here at Matt Stargel's bar room house this morning. They played trivia at Big Dog, and that's how we met. And they decided after a little while they wanted to do a podcast. We really have no subject. We're just going to ramble on.
But I feel like I'm a little out of place here, and I want to be a little younger, so, you know.
Yeah, there you go.
Now you're
now you fit in. There we go. Well, I am younger already. Like, even though Paul's retired, he's 8 years younger than me.
Yeah.
He's a retired police officer.
Oh, okay.
So behave yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
On the other you can do anything you want. Check out.
That's why I take him along. I got protection.
But he needs protection every now and then. It gets a lot of hand. It's a little sketchy going outside.
Well, he was also a school resource at the end of his career at Effort School District, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
So he's worked with high school kids. I know you guys have kids a little younger, but he had to deal with the issues of kids. And,
and it was good. Yeah, it was good.
So,
but we're here for you guys.
Yeah. So we got Nate and Matt and Paul. And so, all right, we'll start with you, Nate.
Okay.
You came to this area. You grew up in this area. Where'd you come from?
Yeah, so I'm originally from the Binghamton, New York area, which is, some people call that upstate New York. Some people call it central New York. In any case, it's due north of Lancaster, as the crow flies, about, 150 miles or so. And my folks still live there, actually. So I was born and raised there. But neither are my parents. It's one of those towns where, it's common, like all my friends, their parents went back generations, But my parents, neither of them come from that area. My dad is from Brooklyn, New York originally. So his whole side of the family is around New York City and Long Island. And my mom is from West Des Moines, Iowa. And so, very different, parts of the country, obviously, very different sort of cultural orientations. My parents, they're still together. They're a bit of an odd couple. But
Aren't we all?
Aren't we all? Yeah. So they've made it work.
Just a weird question on history, but how did they meet?
Yeah.
I mean, that's it.
It was, they were both, for very different reasons, as of course, in Kansas. And my dad had moved out there with a friend. My mom had moved there a few years prior. My parents were both, married to other people before they met each other.
Oh, okay.
And so they split from their respective, partners, and then met through a friend. And as the story goes, my dad was instantly, smitten with my mom. Sorry, Mom and Dad, I'm telling you.
It's got to come out sometime.
Yeah. The truth is coming out.
Let's put it on record.
Yeah. But my dad was like, his jaw dropped, that kind of thing, and he knew right away. And my mom took some convincing, I think. But no, they by and by moved back east to Binghamton and built their lives there. And so, I grew up there. Initially went to college out in Des Moines. That was that's a whole story unto itself. Suffice it to say, I ended up graduating from Binghamton University. I moved back home, which was the right decision at the time. And then bounced around, after that. I lived in Albany for a bit. I lived in and around New York City for 5.5 years or so.
Because Nate wanted to be an actor when we talked.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. What do you went to college for?
What was the major?
Yeah. I'm kind of rushing through this.
No, that's all right. No, we get time.
We got all day.
So I did. I majored in theater in college. And, unlike most of my peers, acting was not some deeply held lifelong ambition. It was something that I had discovered in high school. Instead of taking studio art, I decided to join the chorus, and a lot of my friends in the choir were involved in theater, and they harangued me until I was like, fine, I'll do whatever musical. I was like, oh, this is really fun, And I did it for fun, and it was just that. I thought initially when I went to college I would end up, studying, rhetoric or English literature or maybe journalism, with an eye toward I don't know what exactly. But, when I hit that initial roadblock at Drake University in Des Moines, where I just wasn't ready to be that far from home. I had no study skills.
Right. No,
I'd always just coasted through school. Yeah.
And what's going on in Des Moines?
Well, my mom, Des Moines, I will say Des Moines is a pretty cool, it's 500,000 people in the city, so it's got some life to it, and I had that family connection, which is how it got on my radar. My grandparents are still alive, and so, I was able to visit them each week, which was really, really wonderful, actually, getting to spend a lot of time with them, and aunts and uncles and cousins and so forth. But I had a great time, at college there, but I just collapsed academically, and I had the wherewithal to realize I needed to get out of there before I got into some serious trouble, and do irreparable harm to my GPA and maybe other things too. So I did. I got out, and it was it was just getting real for a minute. The next year and a half or so was one of the harder times in my life, because I had it was like your plan for yourself meets the reality of what transpires, and at age 18, 19, I had no clue how to deal with that, how to reconcile those.
Now you went, and you said you basically went to college, not really having a clue.
Yeah.
Why? And back in your day, my day, it was just the thing to do. Like I worked for a year before I went to college.
Yeah.
Then I went to Millersville only because I thought I wanted to play football there,
Mm-hmm.
and I did till I hurt my ankle, like 5 weeks in, and much like you, my study, like I could have cared less about the school part of it.
Yeah.
And I had like a week to decide. If I dropped out within that week, I would have got half my tuition back. If I didn't, I got nothing back.
Yeah.
So I bailed where I could get half of that back.
Sure.
And then I went to Penn State Berks campus and did graduate with a 2-year business degree, which hasn't really done anything for me either. But like I'm not anti-college, but I think especially the cost of it today.
Yeah.
You better have some kind of clue why you're going there before you spend $250,000 doing it.
Sure.
It just felt like in the 80s and 90s, there was no other path. Like I didn't think there was any other path. It was like you go to school, then you go to college, then you get a job. And like no one ever once talked about anything other than that. I don't remember another.
I think it would benefit almost everybody that ends up going to college.
Yeah.
If it was a rule that you had to get some kind of job, whether you're stocking shelves, whether you're like I worked in a machine shop before I went to college, and I knew nothing about it, but I learned, and that's what my career ended up being. Not because I wanted to do that, but I earned money doing it.
Like CNC machining?
Yeah, I do all that. I mean, it's like so boring to me now. I hate it. Well, I don't hate it, but it's just mundane. But they ought to have to get a job somewhere. To give them a year out of high school to sort of, okay, I'm doing this job and I really like this job and I'm going to pursue this kind of career, or I'm doing this job and I don't ever want to do this again.
Yeah.
So I got to figure out what it is I do want to do instead of just, and in many cases, using mom and dad's money.
Yeah, at that age.
Where I had to pay my own way, and it was back then. It was dirt cheap to go to Penn State, so it was I just worked part time and never took out a loan or anything. But you can dig yourself a deep hole these days, going to school and then getting out and not having a job when you get out.
Well, even when you do have a job getting out, even in the career, like one of our sons, marketing was his thing, and he did graduate with a degree, and he is into marketing, and is doing very well. But there's some student debt that's gonna haunt for a while, and
with banks after 2009, whatever, you got $150,000 of student debt. Your chances of getting a mortgage are probably not real good.
And what if you're a teacher? You'll never pay it off.
Yeah, well, right.
Like the loan should like if you're going to be a doctor, then you can get a bigger loan than
It
teacher
should be.
versus like
Instead of a free-for-all.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we're like you know, if you would have hit it big as an actor, maybe your theatrical degree would have paid itself off, but if not, then you're finding some other job to pay off what you went to school for that you're not even doing.
Well, the good thing is, at least with Ephrata School District, they really promote the counselors, really promote the VOTEC part of it, as well as the.
Well, you can.
They really do a good mix, and they have meetings
in a trade
with
whatever
VOTEC people coming in and saying, "Hey, these are your choices that you can do, and you can do this." One of our sons is heating and cooling.
Yeah.
He's been in 8 years, loves it. You know,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
so what a career.
Yeah.
You know, didn't go to college. He went right into that,
Yeah.
and that, you know, that's successful. You know, the other one is concrete. He does
And
concrete.
we're not coming down on you for going.
No. I'm not feeling that at all.
way to go, Nate.
We're just trying to explain.
No,
Trying to explain to kids out there. There are.
Yeah.
I think, which I think is great, and I wish that to Matt's earlier comment, like it was just what you did.
You did, yeah.
You know, and you know, for me, like, yeah, college was absolutely the right fit for me. Like that's how, you know, that's how I'm oriented, for better and for worse, I guess. But no, I'm grateful that now there's more, that the narrative, if you will, is more expansive. It's like there are all these other ways that you can carve out a career and a, you know, a satisfying life for yourself. College isn't the only way.
Right.
Or you can wait. You can take a year. You can take 2. It doesn't. You're in charge, right? But you know, so long as you are, you know, you're working to like figure out what's a good fit for you, what you're interested in.
That's the key. Yeah, I mean, the one that did the college, he wouldn't have got the job that he loves. If he didn't do the college.
Exactly.
So there is. You're right.
There's it's right for some, not for everybody.
Exactly.
So you shifted to New York.
So you're back in Binghamton.
I'm back in Binghamton, figuring it out.
Very quickly went right over whatever you were saying, like what happened, and you just skated right over that. That's okay.
We'll find out.
It was
We can go back to New York.
The whole story leads to me and Nate meeting in Paul.
Yeah. It does. It really does. It was just, you know, everybody faces challenges in their life, and you know, that was my own, you know, one of my periods of challenge, I guess, right? Where I really had to, it was like because when you're growing up, like you're told what to do. This isn't like some searing insight, obviously, but you know, you're a kid, you go to kindergarten, then you go to first, second, fifth, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I was confronted with like, it was like, I don't know, I was looking in the mirror. It's like, what do you want to do? Like, what do you want to make of yourself here? And I had no.
I think part of the fault of the school system is, and probably more so back like when we all went to school. I think they have more options now, but it's like you said, you go to kindergarten, you go to first grade, but the whole way up through, they're teaching you what they want to teach you, not what you really care about. And so most kids either get bored or frustrated or whatever because they'd rather be learning this, but it's not an option.
Right.
And then they just sort of either give up or become a pain in the butt to somebody, or
right. I think that's why most kids who act out or don't do well in school is because they have no interest in just like the ABCs and 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. I mean, it's some of that you need to learn, but you don't need to learn. I mean, if you have no interest in getting in a career with math, there's no sense you sit through calculus.
Or Cal 2.
Yeah,
that would have done me absolutely no good in the police world.
Well, and different learning styles too, right? Like some people, speaking of like academics, but there's, you know, a lot of evidence to support that, like a lot of, you know, physical activity really supports the learning process, you know, and for my kid, for example, bouncing off the walls, like I'm sure he would do really well if I don't know what that would look like exactly, but more physical activity integrated into
like hands-on instead of book learning.
Yeah.
I mean, because even in my years of machine shop, you know, you have these engineers designing stuff, and they think they're God's gift to engineering, but they have no clue. Okay, I drew this. Well, you can draw anything. Now, how are we going to make that?
Right.
What tool are we going to use to make that stupid? And does it really need it? Is it cost effective? Or you just want it to be fancy on your CAD system?
Well, you know what's interesting is like most of the schools have done away with shop. and home ec and things where you're actually physically
Like life skills.
Yeah, physically making and doing
Right.
things. You don't see that anymore.
No, and that's why, these younger generations, for the most part, if there's a brownout or something happens to the electric grid, there's going to be a lot of people scampering around not having a clue what to do.
Yeah, I've been one of them. I would never.
Actually, my kid, I can always rely on my kid. He's 26, but if there ever is like he's not really like a doomsdayer, but like he is so self-sufficient and cheap and frugal, and like the rest of the world could stop and he could still be doing all right.
Like Ron Swanson.
Yeah.
Des Moines, author Bill Bryson.
Bill Bryson.
He grew up in Des Moines. I don't read a lot, but I really enjoy his books.
Yeah.
What are his books?
He wrote one about hiking the Appalachian Trail with a guy. In fact, that was a movie. I forget it. A walk. I forget what that was. But then he wrote one about he lived in England for a while. He wrote a book about. I mean, they're true stories. But he makes them a little humorous. Then he came back to America and drove around the country and just told about places he stopped and little towns. I don't like fiction because my wife is big into fiction. I said, I could sit down and make up my own stories. Like I like to at least read something that happened to somebody. For real.
Yeah.
But I'm not fiction. But anyway, he grew up. He was a kid in Des Moines. That's where his parents lived.
Okay.
Nate and I read a lot of fiction.
Yeah.
I think, okay, well, this is okay, but I could have sat down and made up something weirder than this.
Do it.
But
Do it.
I just find the nonfiction, much more interesting for me to have.
Yeah.
So where'd you go next?
Oh man. Well, after college, spent a few summers in Albany with my ex. And then
So you were married?
I was married before.
I'm learning a lot.
Yeah.
My wife was too. Was married before we met.
Were you?
No. Christy was too.
Christy, my
Everybody
wife
was
too.
with me.
Yeah.
I'm the only true in this place.
Untainted. Yeah. Pure. But I lived in and around, I would say, New York City for 5.5 years or so. And the initial drive there was acting. Give it a go for a while. But back to our earlier conversation about like getting some practical experience, I learned very quickly that that lifestyle was not going to work for me.
Right.
Like and I kind of resisted that for a bit. But, just the hustle and the, there's uncertainty in life, period. But you are walking a tightrope, as an artist. And holding down a day job to, pay my rent. And then, literally running across town sometimes to go to an audition on my lunch break, maybe getting a gig, but you're not getting paid when you're starting out, So you're essentially working, it was working, 8 to 5 for my day job, go to rehearsal from 6 to 10:30, and then ride the train for an hour home. And it's just man, I don't think I can do this.
Right.
And I was meeting people who absolutely loved that lifestyle, right? But people who were decades older than me weren't necessarily any more materially secure.
Right.
And I was I can't see myself, as a 50-year-old man, being okay.
Still trying to make it in the acting world.
Yeah, and to that point, you see some of the actors today that are very successful.
Yeah.
Doing commercials.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Just to maintain, I would assume, to maintain their lifestyle, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
And it's
Capital One.
Yeah. I think it's like a struggle the whole way through.
Yeah.
You're always
When there's a
searching.
million other people ready to take your place.
Yeah.
It's a tough
career.
It's a tough career,
Yeah.
and it much like almost anything,
Yeah.
it's way more about who you know
Yeah.
than how good you are at doing what you do.
I think everything's that way,
It is.
isn't it?
No, it really is. It really is. Obviously, whatever your skill might be, I guess you have to be fairly decent at it, but you don't have to be the best if you know the people.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can't not know anything about your trade, but
Right.
the more people you know,
Yeah.
is a big, big stepping stone to getting somewhere.
Indeed it is.
What was your, like, were you trying to be a comedian, a drama actor, or really like a TV show, movie, or whatever came your way?
Yeah, I was I guess you could say like a stage actor, like a dramatic. Musicals were my initial foray into it, but I was.
So you're a good singer.
Well, I wouldn't say that. Like that's the but I gravitated quickly to plays like dramatic works. Yeah. And I think I saw myself as a stage actor, but my idea was that eventually I would to pay bills I would do commercial work. I would check out television and film acting as well, which I didn't get that far before kind of pulling the plug.
Well, you gave it a shot.
Gave it a shot.
You can't look back and say I wish I would have tried that.
I truly have never felt I made the decision actually after kind of hitting what I would say is hitting my stride as a performer. Like I remember I participated in this 10-minute. It was a series of 10-minute one-act plays that were brand new, and I performed in 2 of them as part of this festival, and it was a really cool experience, and I felt really good about how I did. And it was like leaving a party when it's still going before it makes the turns out. I had that moment where I was like, I think I'm good. Like I think I'm good. Like I'm not. I don't like this lifestyle.
But I'm leaving on my own terms.
Leaving on my own terms. I feel good about the effort I put in and like where I got. And that was that. Yeah.
And now you do what?
Now I have.
That sounds like I'm not exactly sure how old you guys are, but I know you're not near as old as me. And that sounds like a lot of stuff packed into your little short life.
Yeah, I'm 43, and after that, there was another period of like figuring out what I'm going to do next. And I knew I wanted to go back to school, and so I was deciding between an MBA and I was also interested in mental health counseling, and psychology. I've always been interested in human psychology.
My sister's a doctor of psychology.
Oh, really? Is that right? Yeah. Is she a counselor or a researcher, or is
she does a lot of evals for schools, sort of through her own little business. Like they contract her out to do school evals.
Assessments.
Oh,
for like the kids or like
kids mainly. I guess at this point.
That's what that's a normal thing. Yeah.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah, that's all I need to say about that.
And I decided to go that route. Like so I went to school for social work, and because it was a sort of it blended a lot of clinical counseling work with some management work as well, and some like nonprofit management work, and that was something I was also interested in. And I'm glad I went through that program. It was a terrific one. Moved back up to Binghamton, my hometown, for that, as a matter of fact. And then, again, speed running. I want Matt to tell his story too, because speed running through.
No one wants that.
No. I do. I think the people do too.
They want to hear a love story. It's the end of the story that matters most.
All right. So the quick story is after graduate school, I had split up. My first marriage had gone kaput. I had met the person who is now my wife, Christy,
up in New York,
and we hightailed it out to Colorado. I'm wearing a Northern Colorado sweatshirt. And we moved out there just because, like, listen, we've got nothing tying us down to this area. We didn't have kids. We didn't, it was just like, let's go. So let's start a new chapter together. And it was one of the very best decisions I ever made. And we lived there for 6 years, all in all. Our son was born. Harvey was born
in Colorado.
At the very beginning of 2017. And after he was born, it just got harder and harder to be so far from our families. Christy's parents were here in northern Pennsylvania at the time. My parents were in Binghamton.
We had the same thing. Lincoln was born in Minnesota.
Yeah, that's right.
After like 9 months, Ashley was like, "Take me home. Get me out of this icy cold hall. Take me back to my family." So it's hard to be away from family with a little kid.
Yeah. It certainly was, and by that point for us anyway, we were we were well established there. You know, we had our careers, you know, we had our house, like we had, you know, friends, but it's not the same. It's not the same.
Right.
And so I started, by then I should say I was doing the work that I'm doing now, which is fundraising in higher education. And, you know, as we started getting serious about thinking about moving back east and where we might want to go, an opportunity came across my radar at Franklin and Marshall College.
Okay.
And one thing led to another, and I got the job, and we moved to Lancaster. So that was in the middle of 2018, so 5.5 years ago. Yeah, yeah. And then we met.
Through our little ones.
This is what I know. Yeah, so it was a few years after that, right?
I was hoping it wasn't on Match.com.
No, it wasn't on Match.com.
So much better. No, our kids were in preschool together.
Yeah.
And like obsessed with each other.
Yeah.
Like
just gravitated to each other, and were just like, they were just fast friends. You know, it's
so like my son Lincoln would come home every day. All he would talk about was Harvard.
Yeah.
All he talked about constantly, and so like we're like, I guess we have to. You know, meeting your kids' friends' parents is always weird because like you don't necessarily want to be friends with them, and like some of them
You don't know.
You don't know anything.
I remember when my kid, he was in 9th grade, he had a girlfriend. And right when he doesn't anymore, but when he was going out with her in 9th grade, whatever you want to call that, I went to drop him off at her house, and I thought, well, I'm going to go meet this parent.
Sure, make sure they're not psychopaths.
Yeah. And they lived right down the street from us, but I had never met her. And I knocked on the door, and this lady opens the door. And I thought this lady was this 9th grade girl's sister, but it was her mom.
Yeah.
Because she had the kid like when she was 16. And so I'm like, you know, okay, is your mom here? No, I am the mom.
That's me.
Yeah. All right, well then, you know. But yeah, it was weird because, well, we had our son, like, we were in our 30s. So when we go to kindergarten, back to school night, you know, we were like the old geezers of that.
That's how we are.
That's how we are.
Yeah. So we eventually met them. I think our wives met first.
Yeah,
actually.
they took the kids to a playground.
Yeah.
Ashley and Christy took them to a playground, and it was like, I think they were like,
and they became best friends.
Yeah.
Started working out in the gym together.
Yeah, that's right.
And then Nate and I hadn't met yet, so it's like this whole thing was like.
So it's
my
okay,
wife.
now we gotta meet. Now
Yeah, my wife and
We're gonna go over to Lincoln's house, and we're gonna
it's probably gonna suck, but
you just know that, like, because you like Matt said, it's like you're not necessarily gonna like click with the person, or so it's like, all right, if things go that way, you know, you might even if you're like, oh, this person's kind of cool, like you're still gonna be like standing there, you know.
Yeah.
But
There's that awkwardness.
Yeah.
That never happened. Not once.
No, it was immediately just like, yeah.
I mean, fast forward now, it's like 3 years later. We play trivia together every other Tuesday. We work out in the gym together in the morning at 6 a.m. Like, we're together like 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah.
So,
I found him on the way here, you know, when our kids were little and they were playing sports, they were playing soccer. I got to know some of the parents, the guys.
Yeah.
And it was fun.
Yeah.
Because we were all in the same boat. Like it's you know 8:30 in the morning. We got to watch this game. We got to watch these kids bounce around because they're this big. You know. And then it became funny. Like Mike Davidson, and he's a good guy, and so he is funnier and funny. And he would yell across the field, "Hey, Mac, if you get this in, you don't get this in, you can't come home today."
It's true though. Your kids are going to grow up together for years.
Yeah.
You need people that you can just like shoot the shit with.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
See, we never really, like, my kid, he hardly ever had kids at the house. Like, there is very few people he went to school with from kindergarten to a senior that I ever knew their parents. Like, just because he didn't really interact with that many kids. And for whatever reason, and in my life, my whole life really, I had way more friends that are ladies than I do guys.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
I mean, not romantic, but just I seem to fit more in with ladies than guys. Like I never in my like some of my friends, my brother-in-law, whatever, they go on these guy trips.
Mhm.
I have no interest in going on a guy trip. You know,
Yeah.
But I don't really, I mean, I would consider Paul a good friend. I would consider a couple other people good friends that are males. But honest to God, if push came to shove, I would know 100 times more ladies to call and say, hey, can you give me a hand?
Mhm.
I don't know why, but I would.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Making friends as an adult is so weird and hard. Because, like, you have very little free time. You're working, you're with your family, you're with your kids. Like,
Well, and I always say I have very, very, very few friends. I have a million acquaintances.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, I can walk in anywhere and probably know somebody.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't call them my friend, but I have no problem sitting there talking to them.
right.
But I wouldn't say that I want to hang out with them all weekend long or something like that.
Yeah.
Hanging out with any adults all weekend long is tough. 'Cause,
It
like,
is.
You need your own time and space.
Yeah.
I go on one, like, guys trip, if you will, a year, and it's a golf
Do you
trip.
take him with?
No, Nate's not a big golfer.
Not
Yeah,
yeah.
no,
It's been years and years.
But by the end of the trip, I'm so ready to be home,
Yeah.
in your
Yep.
house,
Yep.
and like
Yeah, I'm
your own shower, your own
Yeah,
bed, your
yeah.
own like process. It's exhausting.
Yeah, sometimes it does, like, we went, him and I and our wives went to cruise for 10 days,
Yeah.
and that worked out really well.
Yeah.
We weren't on top of each other.
You got your own room.
Yeah,
really did.
Well, yeah, we had,
It
and we
worked
sort
out
of,
really
I mean,
well.
if it was up to my wife, we would have spent every minute not with them, looking for them to make sure they're okay. It's like, they are grown-up people. And they probably don't want to see us every minute of the day.
Yeah.
Let them do their own thing,
Yeah.
and we'll just hang out here. You know?
But that was a long time of a couple years of getting to know each other and boundaries
Yeah.
and
Well, I never knew
Yeah.
Paul until he was retired.
Yeah.
I never knew him. I still to this day can't actually, as wild as my imagination is, imagine him being a cop. Okay.
Yeah.
yeah,
I never knew
yeah,
when I was
he
a
knew me
cop.
after I was retired, and that's how my humor and everything got twisted in my world.
Yeah.
So he didn't experience that part of it when I go bang. Because that was part of the world. You know,
Yeah.
a guy with a whole bunch of girl friends,
Yeah.
for me, gets the call.
Yeah.
Yeah, this just went bad, and the wife showed up, and now there's a fight, and
No,
that's
no,
where
no.
you know
My wife-
somebody's stuck
For
in
whatever
some
reason,
position.
I
that
guess
you
my
may-
wife trusts me.
You know,
I'm not
that's
out
the-
there to do anything stupid.
No,
I just
no.
I
But in
hold
my world,
conversations
that's
with
always
ladies
how it
and men with
is.
guys.
Yeah.
And she's probably hoping one of them like latches on to me, so she don't have to deal with it.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting the way, I think there's like the way that, it's one of those nature nurture things maybe,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I don't know,
The way that, yeah, it is. I think it, with guys, I think it is, I don't know, I relate to that, I think, and I think that it's, I would say much the same, that like, I guess lately I've been thinking about it in terms of like being selective about who I would pursue a friendship with, or find myself being friends with. Matt being a primo example, right? Because like I can stand around and BS with anybody, but like I do value. I want to be able to like talk to someone, share what's on my mind. You know what I mean? And
You have a limited amount of time,
yeah,
and you want to spend your time with people who like make your life better.
yeah.
I think it's
That's
important.
important. That is important.
But I'll tell you, that's what, honest to God, and I don't know, honestly, at trivias, there is a lot of trivias that people have been coming to for 5 years that I don't even know what their names are. Because they never told me their name. Like, I never asked their name. I know them. I talk to them all the time.
Sure.
But I don't know what their first name is.
Yeah.
And then there's us.
I do know your
The
names.
8th grade
But
trivia.
it
trivia
actually
lines.
took me a while until I knew what your names were.
Fair.
I mean, the only reason I knew Christy is because she was with when Wacker did the Milagro
Oh,
House.
yeah, that's right.
That's where
Yeah.
I met your wife at a bar.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, Wagner. God,
Yeah, all right.
Oh yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
That was sort of a quick, like, I got a call after my last night of trivia there, the same night, before I went on my cruise.
Yeah.
And it was the girl that hired me to do it there, and she just said, hey, before you go on vacation, I just wanted to let you know we're closing the 5th of November. But she said, don't say anything because none of the employees know anything yet.
Does anybody know why? I still haven't.
I
heard why.
haven't gotten, I didn't really pursue it after
Sure,
the very initial thing. But I sort of asked, was it a lack of staff, a lack of business, just the fact that Whacker, being beer people, decided, all right, this restaurant thing was fun, but we really have no interest in it. I don't know. I don't really know.
Big Dog's doing well. I mean, that crowd comes over.
That Whacker closing, at least for trivia, is a big boost to Big Dog.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there were some nights at Big Dog prior to Whacker closing where it would get fairly full.
Yeah.
And then there's other nights where it's, I mean, it's okay to do trivia, but I know they're not making a killing on it.
Yeah.
And that sort of makes me feel sort of bad. But now with them couple groups that are going to come every two, that's going to really make a big difference.
Also makes it much harder to win.
Well,
It does. It does. It really does.
Yeah, because some of them are pretty good at it too.
They are. They are. I feel like we usually do a pretty good
Oh,
job.
you're in the upper echelon.
We're in the,
We're always top 5, I think.
yeah.
Only a couple wins though. I
That's
think we only got 3 wins.
I
We've
think
been doing
that's
it for like a year now.
Well, there's people there that have no
Seeds.
wins in a year, or 2 or 3.
Okay, all right.
Look at Paul. He did win.
Yeah,
But he had Dave on his
my
team.
wife is smart, I'm not.
It's
I'm more
his
hands-on.
wife
I'm
and
more
another
rental,
couple.
rip a house apart and put it back together, and I'm more with hands-on kind of.
But he is a big movie guy.
Definitely,
He's a movie guy. Like,
yeah,
Oh, yeah?
movies, I like movies.
see,
like
I
horror
don't know
movies.
nothing about it.
Horror movies.
I like horror movies.
Oh, no. I can't even watch a horror movie trailer.
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't.
I
can't.
Don't watch
I love
it.
the Annabelle and Insidious and Nun and that. Absolutely, I love that.
I think the last horror movie I saw in the theater, and that's the moment that I was like, I think I'm good. Like I think I'm good with horror movies now.
Yeah.
Was The Ring?
Yes,
yeah.
20 years ago,
Same.
whatever it was.
I got to walk out of the theater.
Oh wow!
Terrified.
Wow! See, I like The Ring and The Ring too.
It'll burn into my mind. It'll
Yeah.
be all you
Made
think
a ring,
about.
yeah.
The horse running off the back of that shit.
I never saw him.
Yeah.
Like my favorite movies was The Breakfast Club. And,
Yes.
Yeah, that's the
And,
classic. I love the,
but-
Stand By Me and that
Yeah.
Porky's. I made my kids watch Porky's. Stand By Me, by the way, my wife did not like that.
Stand By Me was a Stephen King book. Did you know that?
Yeah, I think I did.
Yeah.
Now that you say that.
I
Yeah,
know
it was great, just fun,
Yeah.
young, thinking.
Right.
Not
Like it reminds you
overthinking,
when I was a
Easy.
kid. Like when I was in high school, Breakfast Club or whatever. But
Yeah.
so I like them kind. But I very rarely watch a movie. I
Do you like the documentaries? Like, does that
Oh,
scratch the itch for like
yeah.
reading
Actually, what I did
this one?
find very interesting, and Paul might have been the one that even told me about it. Like, we don't actually have Netflix, but my kid had an account, and we used his number. And the only thing I ever watched on it was the couple episodes of the 3 Mile Island.
Oh, yeah.
And I was a senior in high school when that
Yeah.
was.
Man.
And watching that, when it happened, we stayed home from school for a day or two, and then you went back to your. You didn't know, like that was this close to wiping off the East Coast.
Seriously?
And you never,
No.
nobody ever told you that.
No.
Like you just sort of, okay, well that happened, and now we're back to school, and it's over with. But it was a way bigger deal than what anybody knew.
And it was interesting because all the guys that were involved in that are now retired and not mandated to not say anything.
Yeah.
So I think that's how it all came out.
Yeah.
It was like,
But it was.
you can't do anything to me now. I'm going to tell you how it really happened.
Yeah.
So it was like,
It was bad.
Oh yeah.
wow.
I mean, it wasn't bad, but it was this close to being really bad.
Catastrophic.
Yeah.
And you wonder, has things changed?
Yeah.
Has not the cover up so much, but at how they react to it changed? It has to a point. They have alarms and things like that now, but when it really, when it hits the fan,
Yeah. Is
how
there a
is it actually
response?
going to come out?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
We don't want to scare Lancaster County. Everybody takes off. Well, maybe that's what needs to happen.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a
There's a
meltdown, you gotta
danger.
get out. Yeah.
it's government oversight's weird. Like when you think about the BP oil spill, when you go back and look at what happened there, there's not. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was like it would have taken with the number of auditors they had, it would have taken them 3 years to keep up with the actual schedule that they should have been doing to monitor the oil rigs.
Yeah.
They could have never kept up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's the same way with the FDA and the USDA
Yeah.
and any of these.
Well, and much like almost anything, they only tell you what they want you to know.
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean, they don't tell you the whole story.
Limited people.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, corners get cut, and maybe not intentionally, but
No.
just that people are spread thin and you can't check every mile.
So what kind of work are you doing now?
Yeah. So I work at F&M at Franklin and Marshall,
Okay.
and I guess a fundraiser is probably the quickest way to describe what I do. So I work in the jargon that we use is I'm in the Office of College Advancement. And advancement's a commonly used term for colleges and universities to describe what we do. And, primarily it's about interfacing with alumni and, parents of current students, to advance the institution. And what that generally means is, fundraising. So, you're raising money for operations, but generally scholarships for, new programs, faculty, research, new buildings, et cetera, et cetera. But you're also, there's great, if we're talking higher ed, there's also a lot of value in the alumni network, so current students, talk about who you know, right?
Right.
Alumni can open doors for students and, provide mentorship and so forth. And so, my colleagues and I can be a facilitator, of those kinds of relationships and help bring people into the fold. So it's relationship management. It's a little bit of sales, I guess you could say. It's marketing, communications. It's kind of all that.
Project management.
Project management, certainly.
Yeah, that's an all-year gig.
By the way, I've never sat in these chairs not against the bar. They're not super comfortable if you can't lean forward on the bar.
Oh, I'm fine.
I'm enjoying it.
Are you?
I'm enjoying it. Yeah.
I feel like they need more back
I
here.
feel like you need a little more.
Well, you got that
I'm
bar.
trying to.
It's your place. You can go anywhere you want.
Yeah,
That's true.
That's true.
So what's your story?
My story.
Yes.
So I'm from Georgia originally. So I grew up in this little farming town in South Georgia, kind of in the corner, on the Alabama, Florida line. I was less than
Did
an
you
hour.
ever go to the Floribama?
Huh?
The bar down there, Floribama.
No.
Kenny Chesney's no-show shoes. Well, I never was there, but I don't have much of a bucket list, but I would like to go there.
Yeah.
It's sort of this dive bar, but it's right on the border of Florida and Alabama, right on the water.
Yeah.
And it's it has a big stage on the beach, and Kenny Chesney plays there a lot. And there was a guy we met, I'm going to say 6, 7, 8 years ago at the White Swan. He was performing there. His name was Bat Bennett. And this guy, he traveled the country, him and his wife. They didn't even own a house. And he was in his 50s at this time.
Yeah.
And he played requests. And he played 4 hours straight. He didn't even stop to go use the restroom. He never stopped. Played barefooted. He was a very interesting guy. Any request you gave, he didn't look at anything. He just knew it.
Wow.
You could even give him commercial theme songs that he would know.
Really?
But he got a number of years after that. He got to be a house band at this Floribama place.
Floribama.
Floribama. It's right on the border of Florida and Alabama. It's like home of Kenny Chesney's No Shoes Nation kind of thing. And, But I'm very intrigued by it.
That whole down area, my dad for 20 years lived in Orange Beach, Alabama.
Okay.
And Jimmy Buffett's sister, and she has a restaurant bar on the water. That's the whole area down there is really
The beaches there are unbelievable.
yes.
The beaches up here are nice, the Delaware, Marriott.
But they're
down there,
they're,
it is.
they're really
There's something else down there.
Yeah.
The sand is white. When the tide goes out, it goes out miles. So you can walk a mile, so far out in the water, and there's sand dollars and starfish. It's just I think the beaches there are much more attractive for people to visit. It's a good spot.
Yeah.
That whole space.
For you to the beach area.
Yeah, so we were probably same as going down to Ocean City, Maryland. We were
a
couple hours from the beach,
Nice.
but an hour from Alabama and an hour from Florida. You could go to dinner in Tallahassee from my house.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And so grew up there, small town. Graduated with 32 people in my high school class.
Man, it is. I mean, mine had 140, and I thought that's pretty
Yeah,
small.
so small town, and I had a big family. I had 3 siblings, but also a dozen cousins, all within a mile of each other. Just grew up, lots of family time. My parents were great. I don't know how they did it with 4 kids. Can't even imagine having 4 kids today.
Now, this is going to be a stupid question, but when you were down there in that area, was your school integrated? Or okay. I mean, I don't know when all that
Yeah, so they have like, it's a little different than up here where you have like, where here you have a county and then you have like the boroughs with the different townships.
Right.
Down there you just have county, and in the county is multiple cities, and there'll be a city school in each little town, and then there's a county school where all the kids from the different parts of the county, the rural area, all go to school together.
Kind of like the sheriff's department, isn't it?
It very much like that.
Like, yeah.
They
Sheriff
take everything, but maybe the inner.
Yeah, very much like that. I grew up, playing football, playing basketball.
With 32 kids in your class, you have a football team?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
that's impressive in itself.
Yeah, it is.
And
I never put that together. Yeah.
It's 3/4 of the kids in your class how to play football.
Here's the interesting thing. So I tell people this all the time. It was like growing up in the movie Varsity Blues. Like if you were a guy, for the most part, you were on the football team. I mean, with that few students, we had almost 50 people on the football team.
Really? Okay. So every male was on the team.
Everybody. And it was like very serious, and you did it year round, and we had like huge summer camps, and we would travel around in the summer and go to different college campuses for summer football camps. We were really good. We won state 2 years in a row.
Really?
Yeah. It's like not to dig into college or high school football.
No,
but like it was like a very serious thing growing up. But the town was also one of those towns like if you didn't get out of there, you're trapped there forever.
Yeah.
Like people didn't leave.
Right.
And so so then I went to school in Macon, Georgia at a small D1 college, Mercer University, and studied business and engineering and played basketball there. And then when I got out of there and went out in the world to work, I got a job with this manufacturing company called Milliken, and we made like, this super boring stuff, but like we made military textiles, so like Nomex and Kevlar and all kinds of like, specialty fabrics and
Paul probably wore your products.
probably.
Thank God.
And, but they move you around a lot, so I like got moved to like Spartanburg, South Carolina, and I got moved around Georgia a lot. I got moved to Utah for like 18 months. And I eventually got tired of it. I was like, this is not fun. This is like a super boring job.
Yeah.
Like I would literally be, crunching numbers all day, walking around the plant, and just like little painstakingly numb stuff in this like massive company with like 10,000 employees.
Yeah.
When you were in Utah, side note, were you in St. George? Am I remembering that correctly? Okay.
Which, by the way, have you guys ever been to Utah?
No. My wife's going in April.
One of the coolest, like underrated places ever. So I lived in St. George, Utah, which is like an hour north of Las Vegas. But from right there, you can go to like Moab National Park, Zion National Park, Bryce Canyon, the Grand Canyon. It's all within like 2-hour drive.
Did you ever go to a concert at Red Rocks?
I have.
See, that's the other thing I'd like to do. Like that.
That's on your bucket list?
That and for whatever reason, I'd like to go to the Florida Band. I mean, it's a little rundown bar, but I'd like to go there.
If you look at my Facebook banner picture, it's a picture I took at Red Rocks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's good. Worth checking out.
Yeah, I saw Ellie Goulding there.
Ellie Goulding.
Yeah. She's like this
I don't know that
techno, like very like, So anyway, I was like, I don't know what I want to do, so I'm going to go back to grad school. So I went to grad school to get my MBA at the University of Georgia. Go Dogs. And
What years were you there?
I was there 2009, 2010.
I was going to, just showing my age, I was going to ask if you were there when Herschel Walker was there.
I wasn't even born when Herschel
Well, I was in high school when Herschel Walker was
My
there.
dad was in school at Georgia.
Oh, really?
When Herschel Walker was there.
Well, that's neat.
Yeah. So went to grad school. It was great. I got out and I started doing consulting, which I really loved because I would travel around to all these different manufacturing facilities and help them improve their efficiencies. But I was never at the same place very long, which is nice for me and like my brain and my ADD. And then then I met my wife via Twitter, by the way, which is like a very weird way to meet. Not just like a dating app, but like we were like interacting on Twitter. I was living in Atlanta and she was living up here. We chatted for like a year and eventually we met and fell in love. Like really quickly, we met. We were supposed to hang out for like 3 days. We hung out for like a week. And then I kept flying back here every weekend. And then we just moved in together. We were like married within 5 months.
Oh, that's cool.
And then I've been up here ever since. We moved out for a job briefly to Minnesota. Like I said, for like a real quick time.
When was that? Was right before Lincoln?
Right before my son was born. He was born out there, and then my wife was like, "Let's go home."
Yeah.
Like it was just a different those flyover states, it's like a different vibe than the East Coast.
Yeah.
And then we got back here. I met Nate, and we lived happily ever after.
Wow. But you're in not necessarily manufacturing, but distributing. Correct?
Yeah.
Is that more what you consider yourself?
So I had always like kind of worked with big companies, and then when I moved back here, I'm like a terrible employee because I'm gonna do things my way, and if you don't like it, that's tough luck. So I would always butt heads with bosses. So when we came back here, I was like, I think I want to try to do something different. And like Ashley and I talked about it a lot, and so I ended up joining up with these two guys, and we started our own company, a little food manufacturing company over in Downingtown. And we started making pasta sauce, and we somehow very luckily got this big, without saying any names, this big, huge pasta sauce contract with like the biggest pasta sauce company in the States. And we went from like doing 1,000 jars a day to doing like 35,000 jars of pasta sauce a day, and did that, and we grew that, and then we spun off another business off of that, making beverages. So then we were in our facilities, we're next to each other, and we're jarring pasta sauce in one facility, and we're canning beverages in the other facility, and those were both growing. And I was like, why have all these food companies come to us and we make their products? We should distribute it as well. So I went with some other partners and started a distribution company to distribute the products that we were manufacturing. And now the two facilities run themselves, and I'm focused mainly on growing the distribution now. I'm still owners over there, and so we have a couple of different things going on.
Oh, that's cool.
So I kind of somehow moved into this entrepreneurial kind of lifestyle.
But I get what you're saying. You're now, I mean, for better or worse, but you're in charge of making. You decide what you want to do when you want to do it.
Yes,
and that's a big deal.
For me, it's important because I am very ADD, and I do, but I'm also very much like things the way I like them. So it allows me to be, to run really hard, work really hard, but not have to worry about someone constantly telling me no or having to ask for permission.
Yeah, no, with my part-time job, which is still in a machine shop, but when I got the job 12 years ago, I told them, here's the deal. I don't really care if I have any benefits. The only thing I want is a good hourly wage and the ability to come and go when I feel like it. And they took me up on it, and it's been a win-win. Mm-hmm. But it's so much more easier to take getting up, going to work, knowing that if I feel like leaving at 8 in the morning, I'll leave at 8 and nobody cares. You're not trapped. It's not like you got to work from 7 to 5, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way, trapped at work.
And whether it was trapped by money, trapped by benefits, and that's why I didn't want any benefits, because I didn't want to get tied to the job. Like, I'll get my own insurance through the healthcare, whatever, but I didn't want to feel that if I decide tomorrow to say, I'm done with this, I don't want to have to then scramble for insurance.
Sure.
I already want that taken care of, so I can just say, I'm done. 100%. And that's what I mean. The attitude you go in with in the morning is way different than knowing I got to be here 5 days from 7 to 5. That really sucks.
And I like the fact that the elementary school had a half day this week, and I just took my son to work, and nobody's gonna be like, you can't bring your kid to work. It's like, no, I can bring my kid to work if I want, because my wife's working, and what's he gonna stay at home?
Right.
So having the freedom to just kind of live your life normally is huge for me.
Yeah. Oh no, it is a big deal, and I think that's why people are so. I think that's why the world in general is so frustrated and negative. Is so many people are trapped in what they do, and most of them don't like what they're doing.
Yeah, but they don't have to like that cycle. And these companies get so big, they don't know who their employees are.
No, and they don't care. They don't care.
The worst.
Mm-hmm. I had a stupid question. Yeah, because I don't know your world.
Yeah.
Does somebody come to you with a recipe of the sauce or the drinks, or can you make this for me, or do you have your own ingredients and you make your own?
So it's called, there's a whole world out there. It's very interesting. It's called contract manufacturing. And almost no food brands, unless you're Hershey, manufacture their own stuff. There's people out there manufacturing it for them. And so it's usually a mixture, right? So I have this my grandma's recipe. I have it. I'll go in and I'll go to a company and be like, can you make this for me? And they'll be like, yeah. And you'll sit down, and most of them will have like a chef that works in there.
Yeah.
And they'll tweak it a little because there are things about products that go on shelf that have to be the pH balance or like the water activity level or the bricks or the technical parts of it, but they'll tweak it to get it so it works. But yeah, people come in with their own recipe. Now some people, like if you're working with like a Trader Joe's, they'll have their recipe. They'll do it exactly like this.
Right.
Yes.
There's five other people making this around the country. It has to match up. So depending on the level or the size of the company, they'll know what they want.
So they come to you and you're like, okay, yeah, we can do this, and then they have your own. So you talk about the distribution part of it. So if like Trader Joe, just as an example, comes in and says, well, you make this for us and we're going to send 5 trucks and pick them up. That's the distribution part of it, right?
Yeah.
So that takes care of itself. How does the distribution part of it come into play?
Yeah, it's interesting. So, so our distribution company here in Lancaster, it's called Founders Market, and what we do is, let's say Nate started out a chocolate sauce company. He has this amazing chocolate sauce. You put it on ice cream, you put it on cakes, whatever, and he wants to get into Giant or to Wise. You can't just go to Giant
And carry it. Hey, will you sell this for me?
Yeah, you can, but then they'll be like, okay, we want 5,000 cases and we want them dropped off every other Tuesday at every location, 199 locations. So what Nate would then do, he would come to us and be like, hey, I just sold this to Wise. Can you guys drop it off for me? And so what we do is we take other people's food products and we drop it off at Oregon Dairy, Stouffer's, Wise, Giant, Whole Foods,
So you're not making anything there. You're pretty much getting the product in
and then driving it around.
and then getting it to
Or if Nate's like, also it's on Amazon, and we'll say, okay, we'll connect you to Amazon shop to our system, and when orders come in, we pack it up and send it out for Amazon delivery. So we do all kinds of different kind of like supply chain logistics stuff.
Do you pick it up from the manufacturer, or does the manufacturer send it to you?
Both. If they're local, like Lancaster is like chock full of food manufacturing. I think it's because of the agriculture, and you have Hershey and all the different, but like there's dozens and dozens and dozens of food manufacturers all over Lancaster County. So if they're local, we'll pick them up, but if they're like in New York or Florida, they're shipping it in. So it's a good mix.
Yeah.
So like he said, if somebody had an idea for a recipe of some sort.
Why, you got an idea?
I've had an idea since
I
I got out of college.
The twinkle in his eye.
I did. Here's my idea, and this may sound, I never actually sat down and tried to produce it. But maybe you guys are too young, but remember there used to be a popcorn snack similar to Cracker Jack, but it was called Screaming Yellow Zonkers. It was popcorn, but instead of that caramel brown, the coating on that was like fluorescent yellow, and it was butter flavored.
Okay.
And it was I'm not a big popcorn guy because it gets stuck in my teeth, but that coating was so good. It was like butter flavor.
You want just the coating?
No, what I want is to take like a one of these local like say Different Box chips, thick, crunchy chips, and coat them in that yellow coating. It would be salty and sweet and buttery flavored, and it would be damn good. And I even thought a couple times years ago when the Denver Fair was, I was going to rent a stand and stir up a batch of the coating and buy a bunch of bags of chips and coat them in this just to try it.
Potato chips.
Yeah, potato chips, not popcorn.
Yeah.
Mainly because I'm not a big fan of popcorn, but I like real thick, like crunchy potato chips.
Yeah.
Do you know what's in the coating? Like what
I did look up the recipe.
Yeah.
I might even still have it. It's only like 4 ingredients or something. But I think the problem is you have to find a way that when you coated the potato chip, it would have to be sprayed on and dried quick because it gets soggy.
So
Like if you dunk the potato chips in the vat of this stuff, they're going to come out and they're going to be soggy.
It would be good. The way I would do it is I would just coat one side of it.
Oh, even that.
So I'd run it under like a waterfall
on
a conveyor belt and then directly in an oven to bake it dry and crisp real quick. And then you pick it up and it's one side's a chip, one side's a coating.
But I can taste that coating on a thick potato chip.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to, like when I was at Berks campus, I would run to the local AM/PM and either buy a box of them Zonkers or
Yeah.
pecan twirls from my lunch.
And they were called Zonkers.
Screaming yellow Zonkers. It
Screaming
came in this
yellow
black
Zonkers.
box with like pieces of bright yellow popcorn on the outside of the box, but they were like fluorescent yellow pieces of
I
popcorn.
wonder why they went away.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. You may still be able to get them. I haven't
Huh.
looked for them for years.
We should get our producer to Google that for us.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, but I could see that coating on a thick, maybe even a ripple cut thick potato
Ooh.
chip.
What about a pretzel?
Well, even maybe pretzel.
Well, like
and
Martin's pretzels, that would be crunchy.
Yeah, because
not
they wouldn't get
soft.
soggy as quick.
Right.
That's a possibility.
So
Like I was just trying to get the coating on something other
what's
than
the
popcorn.
name?
Yeah.
What's the name on this? That
Well, I really didn't come up with the name.
You didn't-
I didn't.
You know what would be simpler is just to make the sauce, put it in a jar, and use it as a dip. So whatever you're snacking
Well,
on.
I think the sauce. I mean, yeah, I guess you could make it thicker, but I envisioned this coating being
dust.
like watery before it was coated on the popcorn, and then dried somehow. But a chip, it would have to, like you're saying, go through like a quick spray of this coating as it went through and got in the oven right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the chip didn't like just get all soggy.
Interesting.
I'll do a taste tester.
The way they do
That's a
like
taste
cheese
test
puffs,
idea.
the way they do cheese puffs is they put it in like almost like a cement mixer
Oh, okay.
that has sprayers in it, and the sides of the walls of the cement mixer are hot. So it's like spraying them and cooking them as they're spun around.
Yeah.
Then they eventually come out the other side onto like an air cooler.
I used to, back in the day at machine shops, we made some extrusion nozzles for like extruding different shaped pretzels and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I also made molds for pierogies
Okay.
and different stuff like
There's a
that.
lot of pierogi manufacturing around.
Well, down in Reading,
In the
mushroom
Reading area.
house. That's where I think we made them for
Giorgio?
Giorgio. Is where we.
I worked for Giorgio for a little while.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did a quick, right when we moved back from Minnesota, while I was kind of trying to figure out what I was doing, did consulting for them for like 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my kid works at Grable's, who makes a lot of automated candy and bakery machinery.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always thought that coating on a chip would be.
How many? Good idea. I'm not positive.
No. Great. I mean, it's like maybe
How many people do you come? They come to you and we made this stuff in our kitchen and it's really good and we think that we can produce it. So, right. So how do you filter like? Okay, it's good, but
Yeah, so, and this is for any, not just my contract manufacturers, but any around the country do the same thing. It's like, they'll have a minimum order, be like, okay, that's great, but like, have you sold it anywhere yet, or is this just an idea?
Okay.
And if they're like, well, it's just an idea, then you kind of have to say, well, like, what you really need to do, there's all kinds of like shared kitchen spaces.
Oh, okay.
There's a great one in Lit, it's called Harrogate. And
I've never heard of that.
and you go in there and they have all the equipment, but you cook it yourself, you jar it yourself, you make it yourself. And then go sell it to like farmers markets, little small independent stores like Oregon Dairy, Stauffer's, Kissel Hill. Get some volume going, get some exposure, maybe get your social media up and going, and then maybe you take a chance to go out to like one big grocery chain. Maybe you'll go to like Wise or go to Giant, and then once you have enough volume, then you can come back to a big manufacturer and say, all right, now I've got 10,000 orders, and then you can go and do it. But
You got to get that proof of concept going.
Yeah. And you got to. They're not going to tool up to make.
That's right. It's all about
6 orders.
It's all about changeovers in a big manufacturing plant, and like you want to reduce downtime. You want to run the same thing as long as possible.
Sure.
So
And it makes sense. I never heard that there was kitchens that you could go to. That totally makes sense.
yeah,
Wow.
there's a really good one. Rutgers has a really good one in their like food science department. You can go down there and they have scientists that work with you, and you can rent space down there as well.
At Rutgers,
Rutgers,
in New Brunswick?
Yep.
Oh, wow. That's
So
cool.
a lot of schools have a food science department,
Yeah.
and they have these big kitchens where
Right.
people can come in and test stuff, and students can work with them and learn about food manufacturing and process and stuff. Super, super interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. That has become an effort. They have that garage now on Fulton Street where you can They have you can rent the space.
Yeah.
To work
And
on your own.
Work on your own, you can
Oh,
rent
no
tools,
kidding. Oh, that's
you can
cool.
do it in different stages. You can rent just a lift,
Yeah.
pull it in, you can
Change your oil, do
change
whatever.
your oil, whatever you want to do. If you need specific tools, you can rent, and now your tools are here, so you get it for
Great idea.
4 or 8
That's a
hours.
great idea.
It's inside, it's controlled environment, and you have a lift that it's very
Yeah.
easy and safe, and
Yeah.
you have other people there watching in case something bad happens.
Sure. Need a hand or whatever, right? Yeah.
A buddy of mine in Atlanta came up with this great idea, and he did it. His business is booming, but mobile repair shop.
Hmm.
So he has like a fleet of trucks fully stocked up, just like you go to a mechanic shop.
Right.
And they come to you. So if you're at work, can't get off of work, they'll come there, work on your car, do whatever.
Cool.
While you're working.
That's
Yeah, yeah.
Great
that's
idea.
cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, that takes a lot of startup costs because you need all the tools
Oh, yeah,
and
for
all
sure.
the trucks and all that.
I think he started just him and his truck and his stuff
Mm-hmm.
until he got enough business to get a second and a third and just throw.
And then you run into like any business, like he did it himself. So then he got big enough, I'm going to hire a couple guys. Well, now in today's world, it's hard to find quality, responsible guys
Yeah.
or ladies, whatever they are, to do that, to trust your brand on Joe Schmo that just happened to apply for a job.
But you know, it's like back in the day, I was talking about this week at work actually. Back in the day, there used to be a pension wherever you'd work.
Right.
And so like if you worked there for 20 years, you had this big pension,
Right.
and how you retired, you cared about your job, you cared
Yeah.
about the company. Those go away. I think companies should start like an equity pool for all their employees.
Some companies, Astro Machine is employee owned.
Yeah,
And,
like an ESOP.
Yeah, like I don't know how much, probably a very small percent, but they own some of it.
Yeah, and we
So that makes it, you might take it a little more
incentive,
serious, yeah.
you care. We do that at the distribution company. So like all the employees, if you've been there 5 years, you become an owner, and like they care so much. But it's like they see that this is it gives you like a sense of accomplishment. It gives you something to care about, get pride in.
Now, do you on a rare occasion like pull everybody in and say, all right, since you are part, any ideas?
Yeah.
And that means a lot too, especially if you once in a while listen to one of the ideas.
We do. So we do. This is we do feedback meetings and interview reviews. They're completely separate. So the interview reviews, here's how you did.
Right, yeah.
Here's your bonuses. Here's
Right.
where you need to work. But the feedback meetings are the opposite, where the employees tell us, they're like, hey, as owners, here's what we think you need to work on. Here's the problems we have. Here's why my job's hard. So we do like reverse reviews.
That's great.
Yeah.
And it's way more powerful.
And
than reviews.
that's a good thing. I mean, in the old days, if an employee, even some companies now, if an employee comes in and says, hey, I really think this, if you don't like it here,
Yeah.
somebody else will.
Yeah.
They don't want to, we did it this way for 50 years, we're not changing now, even though it makes no sense. Yeah.
But you can't. I don't even be that way anymore because like this whole quiet quitting and like remote working, people don't give a shit.
Yeah.
They would just leave and go find another job.
Yeah. Yeah,
But I
because
think-
there's so many available.
But I think people really want to give a shit.
Oh, they
you know
do.
what I mean? I think that we
Yeah.
all, in our own way, whatever it is we're doing, I think that's maybe not universal. I think it's a universal human drive to
you
find
want to do
meaning
good.
in what you do. Yeah, you want to do good. You want to be valued. You want to value what you're doing and how you're spending your time.
Yeah.
So, lining up the incentives to create a pathway for people to do that.
Instead of just being a number.
Instead of just being, it's not only is it to me, it's like the right thing to do, but also it's a smart thing to do, right? You don't want to
I
be
think
constantly
so.
looking for new people to
When
do
there's
the
none
work.
out there.
Right.
I mean,
I was part of the old school way, but I was lucky. We had fantastic bosses. My Chief Harvey, and Chief McKim now, and the sergeants that I work with, I still connect with 3.5 years later.
Yeah.
Because I respect them. They are very good at what they do, and they respect the people that work for them. Like, we're here to do a job. We don't have an attitude. Let's just get the job done.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Do it safely.
the police force so different from when I was younger than it is now because there's the tension and everything going
Yeah.
on. Like I remember, you used to, especially when you're a kid running around being an idiot,
Yeah.
get pulled over and they'd be like,
Yeah.
"What are you doing, man?
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
Call your parents or
Right.
whatever." But there's so much friction now; it almost can't be that way.
It's a little more difficult.
Yeah.
that's for sure. And it was a swing. Everybody hates, and it's always a swing. Everybody hates the cops.
Pendulum, yeah.
And everybody loves there's not enough, something happens in the country,
Yep.
and there's not enough cops. And
Yep.
that's always been that way.
Yeah.
But this last one swung way the other way when defund the police, and well, what do you think is going to happen when you defund the police? But I was lucky in where we were. We had good people to work for, and the interaction with our bosses was fantastic. We had that meetings. We had that you come in and like, how are things are going?
Yeah.
How can Chief Hart would walk in and he'd look at it like, how can I make it better for you? What do you need?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just, I'm here to make you look good, Chief, as much as I can. Serve the people, serve everybody I can. I want to make sure everything comes off your plate as much as it can. Because we can deal with it. You have enough to do with what you do, the politics part of it. Keep the politics off my plate.
Yeah, yeah.
Because then that happens, and that you don't want. That's,
Well,
and they were good at that.
that's the pendulum you speak of. And since social media and like the constant news cycle now, whatever it is, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, that pendulum just keeps swinging. And regardless of what you're talking about, we're talking about big corporations and the work environment, talk about the police, talk about politics, whatever it is, the pendulum just keeps getting bigger.
It does.
Swinging further and further.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think that, I really don't think that human brains are equipped to deal with, these, I don't know, maybe this makes me sound old, but like, I just think that like, we get such constant, instant feedback and gratification.
And depending what you choose to constantly look at and research, it becomes, I still say when the internet was first invented, and I still say the only reason it's basically free today, it's the government's way of controlling people. Like it can brainwash you. It can tell you, like they can say, we're going to tell them all about this, but we're not going to tell them about that. If it had nothing to do with government in the background, it probably wouldn't be free.
Well, it's a feedback loop. So like whatever you're thinking about looking up, it's going to take more of that and put it in front of you.
Oh yes.
And you're going to go down that hole.
Yeah.
There's a comedian on Netflix. I don't remember what his name was.
Paul probably knows.
But
he's a comedian.
but he was like, we're going to look back in 50 years on social media the way we look on smoking, which is like, why was I doing that?
Yeah.
Why were we doing it all the time? Why was I doing that around my kid? It's like it probably is going to be a point where we look back and be like, God, we were stupid.
Yeah, that was a big part of me being within the school, trying to teach the kids how to use their device properly.
Yeah.
Whether it be, social media, sexting kind of things, and like this is going to affect you for the rest of your life.
Forever.
So, how many of you guys think you're smarter on your device than your parents? And the kids would all put their hands up, and they were right.
Yeah.
And I have questions on sometimes I'll ask one of my kids, like, dude, what's and I'm pretty techie.
Our kids are 7, and they pick up a device.
Yeah.
They know exactly what they're doing with
That's
their
exactly,
minutes.
and they can get around what's going on. So how do the parents catch up with that? How do they monitor that? And that was part of like, let's teach the kids, yes, you're smarter than your parents on this. So how can we teach you the proper way to use it and the dangers? There's a creeper, and this is what a creeper can look like, and this is what you could ask. And so teaching that in school, because they're not going to get it anywhere else. Yeah. And I was able to convince the admin to go all the way down to 4th grade.
Yeah.
In 4th grade, you guys put your hands up. How many of you guys have a device you could talk to somebody at the other end of the world? And 3/4 of the class put their hands up.
Yeah.
Do you think your parents know that? No. Yeah. So how do we teach that? And we had a discussion yesterday on how kids aren't responsible now. Like they have this entitlement. It seems like. And back when we
there
were
was
up,
a
there
guy
wasn't
eating lunch
that.
with us at his wife. He grew up basically Mennonite, so he has a good work ethic, and his wife has a good work ethic and everything. But her method of parenting is, the kids shouldn't have to help carry coal bags in the house or whatever. Well, they should. I mean, if they're old enough to do it. And what happens is these kids, up until they graduate and go somewhere on their own, were never forced to do anything. Now they think the world owes them favors. Like they think the rest of their life somebody should be catering to.
Maybe there's an assumption. Yeah, no, I disagree with that method of parenting. Certainly,
in the big picture,
yeah,
wherever it is, whatever those kids are doing right now,
yeah,
look at where it was with our parents. And I said,
Yeah.
think of our parents sitting here at this table having this discussion about us as kids, saying, these kids have it so easy. And think of their grandparents, and it's all relative.
Yeah.
it is.
It really is.
It is.
It's relative. It's like, what were we?
Well, and I think
we need to change the world.
but what's going to happen is
Yeah.
your kids and their kids, as they grow up, because of technology, they're going to have to do a lot less. Whether it be at home, on their job. I mean, even your distribution. I don't know how many human hands are there, but if you could, you would probably rather have artificial intelligence loading trucks because they wouldn't get sick. You wouldn't have to pay them.
I think though, it's more about having a conscious effort to show your kids how hard you're working and to have them earn things.
Yeah.
Like, if you want an hour of video game time, or if you want a new toy and it's not Christmas, like, earn it. Here's a list of things you can do.
Yeah.
Show them that
No,
if you do this, you get this. And then, like, I love taking my son to work because then he sees people working, not just me, but everyone.
Yeah.
The guys driving the forklifts,
Yeah,
the people
right.
packing boxes.
Yeah.
I think exposure is a big thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, if all they know is sitting on the sofa looking at their iPad or whatever, then that's all they know.
And we had some parents that come in and it's like, we're just going to take it away from them. We're just going to take that phone away from them, an iPad. They're never going to have it. We're going to keep it because they're on it too much. Well, you got to understand, in another 6 years when they graduate or whatever, they're going to need to know how to use that device to work.
Yeah, and we were all teenagers. If your parents tell you you can't do something,
that makes you.
You're going to do it.
Yeah. If you say, go ahead, go do it. Well, then it's all of a sudden not all that interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think none of us know what the future is going to look like. What it's sort of like, I don't know. 20 years ago, I couldn't have envisioned like having an iPhone.
No.
Like,
Do you remember seeing an iPhone for the first time?
Oh my God.
The touchscreen. I was just like, what?
So we just I guess the way I think about it is it's like what are the values that I can model and instill?
Mm-hmm.
Like how can I teach my son to the best of my ability how to think critically, take a step back, like recognize that life involves there's balance. You know what I mean? That like there are different there's different like. Life is lived on different levels, as my dad told me. All things in moderation.
Nice. Like my life.
Well, but it's true. I think that it's like in my conception, it's like if I can at least like get my kid like halfway down the field with those values and that framework, then he'll be better equipped to deal with whatever technological changes.
Yeah, because there's always going to be a right and a wrong choice to be made, regardless of whether you were in the 1700s or you're in the year 2525. It's got to come down to, all right, I got a choice here, and which is the best of these choices?
You gotta. I talk about this a lot. It's like it's filling the karma pool. Make decisions that are good for people around you and yourself.
Yeah, and
it'll always come back.
Yeah, it does.
You'll be, you can make a selfish decision or you can make a good decision.
Mm-hmm. And I always told my kid, before you do something half stupid, before you decide to do this, think of what is the worst possible outcome, and then ask yourself, am I okay with that worst outcome?
Because
if not, then maybe don't do it.
Right.
I wish I had thought that more.
I know. Yeah.
Hey, we're still here.
We are.
When you're out in Des Moines making decisions.
Oh gosh, yeah.
But eventually you made a good decision.
Eventually I made a good decision. Sometimes you have to.
Eventually I met my wife and she made good decisions for me.
My wife is still trying.
You said that when you first time you saw an iPhone, and wow, for me, it was Windows.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God! I remember having to do MS-DOS on the typewriter.
Yeah.
And then they came out with this Windows. We had this one itty-bitty little computer in this closet, and it had Windows, and we could sit down and do it, and it would print like, We didn't have to backspace and put the white in and then
Yeah,
I mean,
the
like,
light sucked it like
Windows was a big one. I remember
Yeah.
the first time wearing a virtual reality headset.
Yes.
He has
I got one.
Oh, was you really?
I'm not a gamer.
Yeah,
It's
But
insane.
movies and Google and kind of move it.
that's cool.
I like it.
I remember-
it could go so much further. It hasn't, but it will.
Like
Yeah.
25 years ago, I remember going to Huntington, Alabama, to the NASA camp there.
Yeah.
And they have like one of the first IMAX theaters that like.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah.
just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was probably like 13 or 14 years
Yeah.
old at the time.
Yeah.
It's like there's certain times when like when some piece of technology you see it and it's just like
Yes.
breaks a glass, shatters a glass,
Yes.
and you move to another part of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
That was my experience with IMAX.
Yeah.
My dad lived in Boston at that time, and he took me to an IMAX movie. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, it's like you could.
Yeah.
The iPhone really was. I remember I was in college, undergrad. I remember someone had an iPhone,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember it was like another piece of technology.
Yeah.
And everyone was crowded around them
Yeah.
watching and do this
Yeah.
thing. It was huge.
Yep.
And here we are today. Everyone has one.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I wonder what's next.
Yeah.
It's going to be in your brain.
It's,
think?
yeah, yeah.
It's
Something.
going to be,
You're
not going to have to carry it, you're just going to have to
It's
think about
already
it.
doing that. Think of what you want it to do, and it's going to do it.
Yeah.
Well, it's already starting to
It's
do
predicting
some of
it.
that. Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
algorithm.
we just, I stopped at the after the VFW the other day, mainly to get my trivia check, but there was two other guys at the bar. And the one, it has been in this, well, he's not anymore, but he was in the Air Force, and he still works in big time IT, doing networks for worldwide, but he knows a lot of shit. I don't think he ever lets on Mac is, I think he
Mac,
knows.
Oh, yeah.
And this other guy, I don't even know who the guy was, but he worked for Dark Container, and he was sort of, we talked a lot about AI and in manufacturing and how, nowadays there can be a truck dumping whatever off at one end of a building and it comes out packaged, ready to put on a store shelf without any human intervention in that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of jobs that are being lost, but it's because of that maybe the prices can stay down because you're not paying all these humans to do it. And then then we got into warfare and why is there even the need for ground troops in this day and age when you got drones and you got this and that and the other thing. But then what happens if you have a whole fleet of AI soldiers and they're trained, they were trained on visually.
I've seen this movie.
Well, but I did watch movies, but like if somehow a glitch goes on and now they're not just looking for that kind of person, but they're just looking for any person to wipe out. How do you stop them? And when they become smart enough to realize that we humans are just milking resources and they don't need us around. There's all kinds of.
There's what is it in Terminator? There's a phrase for that at the point where
Singularity. It's when artificial intelligence is smart enough to replicate itself without human intervention.
And that's not that far away, I don't think.
Oh, I think that. If you listen to Elon Musk and them guys, they're scared of it. Like they think this has gone beyond the point of no return. That if something don't change, that's what's going to happen.
What's the Boston Robotics? You seen those videos of those
dogs.
robotic dogs that
and
the police dog and the stuff? It's really, you combine the two
wild.
of those together and
Well, you even get to the point where with like Elon's neural link, his initial claim is he wants it to be able to have the brain, this neural link for a paralyzed person to make them be able to walk.
Well, that's the ideal. That's the ideal application of it, right? Like where,
it's gonna go way beyond that.
Yes,
and we were talking about that. And if down the road, let's say I have a neural link and you have a neural link, we would be able to talk without talking. We could.
Nate and I can do that already.
Yeah, well, so then nobody's getting. And also this Mac guy, he said his son, who is like a mathematical genius apparently, 10 years ago at a college. He wrote up a paper he figured out the math for, like right now you can go on to Photoshop and you can like take you can sharpen an image, you can sort of blur it out, get rid of the pixelation in it, all that kind of, well, he figured out the math that can actually, like you wouldn't be able to tell it's not a doctored up picture. So now you get into a video of you have it out for somebody.
Deep fakes.
And you make a video of them doing something that they get arrested for. And they show the video to the court, and there's no way of knowing is that legit or not legit. Like
that feels like that's already starting to become a little.
Well, I think-
Yeah, I mean, like when I was on the job, when you go into the metadata, and you could see what was changed. And
Yeah.
I was part of the forensic photography CI teams in the county, and I don't care what picture it was, and that was one of the things we taught was you don't get rid of it. It's just it is what it is. You tell that to the jury.
Right.
Yeah, that's just I took this picture. It's crooked. It's this. It's whatever. It is what it is. You don't change anything. Brightness.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Don't alter a thing. Yeah.
Don't alter a thing when you go to court. But you're right. Where's that going to be in a couple of years where it's erased and you can't have the metadata there, and then
That terrifies me too, from like a political aspect, or like, you know, you think about like, you know, an election being, you know, changed with people making people say fake things.
Yeah. Oh
pictures.
yeah. I mean, you can say, oh yeah, back in 1923, Joe Schmo did this. He shouldn't be president.
Right.
And you just, I mean, modern day, you could produce, well, here's a video of it. And the video could be that realistic in the background of the binary numbering that it would appear like this is legit.
yeah.
Brave new world. Brave new world.
We could spend a whole day on talking
Yeah.
about this stuff.
And actually, we soon want to wrap this up because
Yeah.
I got to get to Lebanon and he has a viewing later. But well, that was fun.
really
And
great,
actually,
guys.
time flies by on these things.
It's like
We probably have an hour. We're probably going on 2 hours.
You think?
Oh, really?
Well, an hour and a half.
Yeah, hour and a half.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Always a
because-
good time.
and actually, I feel like this was one of our more relaxed. Like we didn't have a subject,
No.
so we didn't try to stick to a subject. And this was almost like the standard that I think we thought of when we thought of doing podcasts.
Yeah.
Not necessarily have a rigid topic, not necessarily have a an agenda. Just start talking.
Yeah.
Well, when you get back from Florida in the springtime, we should do it again, except switch, and you two should
Yes.
tell us.
Oh, yeah. What?
Your story.
That's roads.
Yeah. I think I like that idea.
That would be good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having
Thank you
us.
very
Oh,
much.
no.
Really appreciate it.
The only thing
And
The only thing that scares me in this whole video is that now somebody is already at home coating potato chips with screen.
We're gonna beat him to it.
Yeah. Well, I didn't notice that. Actually, this ain't live, so they couldn't be.
For the next one, we're gonna make some of that, and we're gonna be
taste test, and then we're gonna say, "Damn, that is good." Whether it is or not, we're just gonna say.
you better name it before it gets rolling. You
Yeah,
name it.
I'll name it and put the name on Facebook, and then we have like proof of it.